Hey, Emily, how are you doing today? So today is the 26th of October, 2018, and I want to welcome you here in my presence today where we can just talk, sit back, hang out, spend some time together, talk a little bit about what's on your mind, what's on my mind, what I imagine might be on your mind, and you know, see how things go. This morning is a little chilly. I'm noticing that it's a little cooler in my room today. Winter time is definitely on its way. I did find a knit hat that I can wear and that I like, and but I haven't been wearing it too much. It hasn't been really that cold yet. But I see that those days are coming, that's for sure. And, I've been just going about my life day by day, active in sort of moving toward my purpose, which is to do well in school and to do well at work and to enjoy time with my circle of friends. And I've been doing that. Work has been pretty exciting lately. There's been a lot of interesting developments. And in fact, there's an open position in my workplace, a new employment, a new job has opened up, a vacancy, and I'm going to make an application to the job over the next couple days. So we'll see how that goes. I might keep you informed as to how that's gone or how that's going. It's interesting how it's actually kind of challenging to apply for a job. It involves, discussion about, sort of accomplishments and successes I've had, over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, even the last decade. And it's not all too easy to recall what those accomplishments were. It's easy to forget them, and it's sometimes hard to bring them back to the fore. And so over the next couple days, I'll be tasking myself to come up with what those accomplishments were, and digging into my past, right? Digging into old emails and old files and finding these golden nuggets, these gems of accomplishments in the past. And so, I look forward to it. It sounds like an interesting exercise. I think, it might be edifying to me. I might, I have a feeling that it might give me a little bit more strength in terms of my self-concept to go over some of this information. So that's kind of a unique perspective on the whole thing, I think, and something I'm going through now and over the next couple days as I develop an application for that new job. So let's see. I've been asking myself lately, I wonder how you're doing, how you're faring in the world right now. It's late October, the end of your freshman semester, the fall semester of your freshman year is coming soon. I've already had my midterm exams in my classes at Allen Hancock College, and I'm guessing that you're nearly done with your midterm exams too. We're halfway through the term now, and there's only November and December to go through until the semester is over, this fall semester of 2018. So time is moving really rapidly. I know I've got some studying to do, some post-midterm homework that's due in my machining class, and I've got to read like 4 chapters and hand in homework. I'm going to be doing that this weekend. I'm going to be diligently studying, sitting at my desk, drinking a warm cup of tea, and, really focused on studying and learning the material. I'm also thinking a little bit about next semester at Allen Hancock College. The new schedule for next semester pops up on the website on 29 October, which is like, if today's the 26th, 29 October is only 3 days from now. And so when that pops up, I'll be able to choose my classes for next semester. Right now, I'm thinking about maybe taking a drawing class. I want to learn more about drawing and get in the habit of drawing a little bit more. I also want to develop a little bit more skill in my drawing technique. And I've also been thinking about maybe either taking a welding class or taking a class in Photoshop. I'd like to learn how to Photoshop photographs a little bit better. My skill level is pretty low. It's pretty rudimentary. I'm definitely a beginner, even though I've been enhancing photographs for years. Because I've been taking photographs for years, I just haven't really spent a lot of time on the technical side, figuring out how to make adjustments to my photos that are significant. Really, the only changes I make to photographs are their brightness and their contrast. Very rarely do I change the color. I might change the color temperature or the color saturation. And also what I do is crop photographs. And those are pretty much the only tools that I use. Sometimes I'll enhance the sharpness of a photograph. But beyond that, I don't do any super technical Photoshop work where I'm replacing faces on heads or or changing the background dramatically. I just never really had to do that. So it'd be nice to develop that skill, because I've actually been taking a lot of photographs lately and posting them a lot on social media, and I think it'd be nice for me to learn how to better enhance them. There was a time, I know, that you were interested in producing videos and producing photographs, and I'm curious if you still have those interests. Maybe those interests have been overtaken lately by you being in school. I know that freshman year high school is a real challenge. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to know. You're adapting to a new environment, a new schooling environment, a new social environment. You're also, of course, adapting to a new home since you've moved recently. And so my guess is that there's a lot of changes going on in your life, and it probably takes a lot of your energy just to cope with those changes and succeed, and basically just cope with those changes. That gets me to think too about what parts in your life you might be challenged in right now. I am curious, Emily, about the challenges in your life right now. I'm curious about what areas of your life you feel are weak and perhaps struggling. I wonder what areas in your life you might engage in self-judgment or self-criticism. I'm curious about what your goals and desires are for the various areas of your life. And, I know I'm curious about where you're struggling, really, about where you're feeling a little blue or a little sad about outcomes. I wonder about where you are working on certain strategies for making improvements. And I'm curious also too about any hard feelings you might be having, any emotional pain you might be struggling with or enduring in the moment. I'd be open to hearing about these areas in a non-judgmental way. And I just want to let you know that I'd like you to sort of have some trust in me that I'll handle those sensitive ideas and issues with respect and acceptance, care, and awareness. I've been talking lately about how challenging it is for people to be vulnerable, and because things that people value are at risk. There's a risk of loss. And sometimes it boils down to just habits of thought, willingness to be open. And, one can receive relief by sharing ideas that are troubling or difficult. I was talking to you earlier about how it's cathartic. Now, a catharsis might be a new word to you. Catharsis is a Freudian psychoanalytic term. That means it's a word that I guess was developed maybe over 100 years ago, maybe over 120 years ago, when Freud was developing his psychoanalytic theory. But I think what it means is just this sort of relief, this reduction in pressure when ideas are expressed that are troubling. When you sort of share these ideas with another person who's willing to be respectful and present in the face of the ideas and information. And, there's a relief that comes with that. I think in our society today, we're often encouraged to withhold information from others as a form of protection. And not only do we withhold, but I think we also separate from others. There's like this distancing that occurs. It's sort of a self-protective mode that people fall into when they're hurting. They often withdraw and they separate. Maybe they grow silent. And these are all healthy behaviors. These are behaviors that relate to sort of separation and loss, and sort of their coping mechanisms that sort of establish themselves. A lot of that coping mechanism sometimes you just need to stand back and reflect about the changes that are occurring. Recognize what's happening and think twice so that, you can find your way, find your bearings again. In fact, I know that when I struggle, sometimes when I'm confronted with tough issues, I will stand back and examine and analyze those issues in my mind carefully so that I make the decision that's best for me in the moment. And that's entirely appropriate. It's important to slow down when important issues arise and to sort of bring a little bit more mindfulness and thoughtfulness to a problem. And you know, I think it's really easy to sort of just dismiss an important problem, and I think that and sort of act in haste, maybe even act prematurely. I think a better way to behave is to just slow down a little bit and to perform a little bit of self-examination, some self-analysis. Go over what it is in your mind, what you think is important, and also perhaps find guidance from others. Maybe there's a mastermind group, right? A mastermind group is a group of people who are interested in helping you to achieve success. And there are people in your mastermind group who basically since they're not, they're sort of external to the situation, they have like a third party perspective, and they can provide very helpful, what I'd call impersonal opinions and advice about how to manage certain problems and issues. And these can be your parents, your mom, your stepdad, myself. They could be your friends. They could be acquaintances. They could be your teachers or counselors at school. And they can also be psychotherapists, and they could even be anonymous others on the internet. In fact, a great source for good ideas and information, and bad information and bad ideas, is the internet. Google, Google search is a great way to think more creatively about problems. You can also go to websites like Facebook and Reddit to sort of get other perspectives on a problem. So, I think this is also a really good time for reflection too, just because it's the season, right? It's colder now, and so people are spending slightly less time outdoors. They're indoors quite a lot. And the days are changing, right? The day is getting shorter, and so there's more darkness in the mornings and in the evenings. And so people, close down a little bit. They're not as social perhaps, and they spend a little more time with an inward focus. Maybe they're reading a little bit more, or drinking a little bit more tea, doing homework, preparing for their midterm exams. And so they've got this extra time, right? They're not involved in external activities. They're at home, and they're focused on sort of what's going on with them. They're basically in this process of re-evaluation. So, I think I'm going through that phase right now. And that is prompting me to ask you about whether you're going through that phase too. And so I'm curious about what you have to say. I'm curious if you have any thoughts about what I'm saying, about these tendencies that I think might be occurring here this late October. Well, let's see. On another note, I've got a few exciting and interesting activities coming up soon. I'm going to go to that Troye Sivan concert on Tuesday night. I'm going to go see Kim Petras and Troye Sivan at the LA Greek Theater. And that'll be a fun concert to attend. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to dancing in the audience, with the others as the music plays. And I'm also looking to enjoying an overnight trip in Los Angeles. That might be fun. I'm also looking forward to Halloween. I'm still preparing my costume. I found that cape that I'm working on, that's part of my Robin Hood costume. And essentially the cape is made of a burlap material. And so I'm excited about fashioning that cape. I've still got some sewing and cutting of the burlap material that I need to do in order to make the cape and prepare it. But beyond that, I've pretty much got everything down. Although pants and shoes, I don't know what I'm going to do with my pants and shoes. You know what? I actually do have some jeans, some green jeans that I think will work pretty well. And now as for shoes, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I think a lot of, I think it might not matter what my shoes are, what my shoes look like. Everything will be Robin Hood except for my shoes. A man's got to be able to walk around, right? And maybe do some trick-or-treating, right? Yeah. So my costume is really coming together. Here's the thing about the cape that I'm putting together. It's a burlap cape, and I'm thinking of putting a second layer underneath so that the burlap, when it lies on my neck, this is the burlap, that there's some kind of silk lining underneath. So what I'm going to be doing with the sewing machine is attaching the burlap to the silk with some kind of thread. Because I want to be able to wear my cape comfortably. Because burlap, I did try my burlap cape on, and it really did scratch around my neck as it rested on my skin, on my exposed skin. So, that's something I want to try to take care of. So I did buy that second layer already, and I just need to attach the two sides together. All right, well, I haven't even gotten to peaceful living yet, so let's get on it. So here I am. I'm going to read a passage from the book Peaceful Living. This is a book that is sectioned off into calendar days, and since today's October 26th, I'll go ahead and read the passage. The passage begins with a quote, this one by Ralph Waldo Emerson. The efforts which we make to escape from our destiny only serve to lead us into it. Ralph Waldo Emerson. I'll say that quote again. The efforts which we make to escape from our destiny only serve to lead us into it. And I also too have this sense that, if we have a destiny, so to speak, I wouldn't call it a destiny. I just sort of call it a tendency. Our personality tendencies tend to unfold and develop. I think no matter what we try to do, even if we try to sort of curtail a certain aspect of our personality, I think that even that curtailment might still lead us to an end that a certain personality trait might have led us anyway. I have that sense too. I have a sense of what I'd call the inevitability of an unfolding of an element of our personality. And no matter what we do to sort of arrest that unfolding, that the elements will still arise and be major themes in any way that we express our personality. So, I concur with Mr. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Let's see what Mary McKenzie has to say about this idea. Her passage begins with the subtitle, Our Behaviors Reflect Our Needs. Everything we do is an attempt to meet a need. No matter who you are, how you were raised, or where you live. I recently went on a trip and hired a woman to watch my cats. I gave her instructions to feed the cats dry food. She called me 2 days later to tell me that they had requested canned food. And since I had some, she gave it to them. Would it be okay if she bought more canned food for them? I was shocked. How did my cats request this from her? I asked. They were very clear, actually. After I fed them their dry food, they stood by the food dish and mewed and mewed. I knew they wanted something else, so I looked in your refrigerator and cupboard. Sure enough, I found the canned food and I gave it to them. Then they stopped mewing. I love how communicative they are, don't you? I did love that. I also love how receptive she was to figuring out their needs. Sometimes the people who are close to us, including our animals, express themselves in ways that are difficult to decipher. When we take the time to understand them, or when we look beyond their choice of words to see the need they are trying to meet, we enhance our relationships. There's nothing more precious. So the thought for the day is, be aware of opportunities to look beyond someone's words and understand their underlying needs today. So this is a really important thought. It has to do with nonverbal communication and how important it is to pay attention to it. And, I think in the past I've not given as much attention to nonverbal communication as I ought to have. When someone is in their logical mind, it is very easy to sort of default to listening only to someone's verbal expressions and pay less attention to their nonverbal expressions. As I've grown older, I recognize that it's really important to pay attention to nonverbals. That often nonverbals will provide information about a situation and about what's on a person's mind a lot more honestly than their verbal behavior. And in fact, occasionally in relationships, I run into situations where I notice there's a contrast between someone's verbal and nonverbal behaviors. And afterwards, after a certain connection, I noticed that the nonverbals were expressing a more true information than the verbals. And a lot of this, it just takes awareness, right? It's awareness. It's about valuing a person's signals. People signal all the time. They signal about, there are lots of signals that people use to communicate, like how they dress, right? The clothes that they wear, the car that they drive, the jewelry that's on their body, the accessories that they use. They're all signaling. They're all communication. Even the jobs that people have, they're signals. The words that they say, again, are signals that are conveying meaning. The non-verbal behaviors are also signals. These non-verbal behaviors can take the form of how rapidly people move their hands or body parts, or how slowly. Also, there are muscle tension cues that people use. Muscle tension, whether people are fidgeting or whether they're doing checking their time, checking the clock, checking about other people, just checking anything besides what's going on in the conversation. All of these are nonverbal signals that are very useful to pick up on. And anyway, what Mary McKenzie is talking about is how these nonverbal signals really do a pretty good job of describing the needs that people are trying to meet. So not only are they signaling information about, say, whether they want to be approached or what attitudes they're willing to accept or ideas. what ideas and attitudes they're willing to accept. People are signaling information about their needs, about their wants, about their desires. Yeah. They are signaling ideas about how they want to be recognized, how they want to be understood. What's important to them. Quite often people will, people who love video games, they will wear t-shirts with video game themes on them, decorations and prints that are related to video games. They're telling you about how they spend their time and where they spend their money. And, it's really valuable insights. They're telling you about their goals. Yeah, people's nonverbal behavior. For example, how people dress. At work, are they dressed in really formal business attire? Maybe their goal is to become a manager or become partner. And if they're not dressing so well, maybe their goals are self-preservation because their home life is really tough. Or maybe they're preoccupied. Maybe they've got a family and maybe they're focused on their family. Maybe they're taking care of a relative who's in poor health. So, these nonverbal cues are cues about what people need, want, desire. They're cues about people's goals and cues about what people find important and meaningful in their lives. A lot of people wear religious symbols around their neck, on top of their heads, certain articles of clothing, certain jewelry. They're examples of where people find meaning in their lives. And, it's important to pick up on those cues so that you can develop rapport more fully and, get to know them better. Get to know them in ways that help serve the both of you, right? Okay, so, I guess I'm ready to move on to the next subject. All right, so let's go through some questions and answers. So this is my Kindle book. I've got a book of questions on it, and my purpose for answering these questions is so that you can get to know me a little bit better, so that you can know who I am, what I think is important, what's on my mind, and what my goals are and what my experiences have been in the past. And so it's just a prompt. And let's go over some questions. Why don't we? So, question number 108. What is your favorite sleeping position? So, I tend to sleep on my side, and I tend to sleep on my left-hand side. And I can sleep on my right-hand side, but essentially, my favorite sleeping position is on my side. Now, I know there are people who love to sleep on their stomach, and there are others who also love to sleep on their back. I'm not one of those. Now, I can sleep on my back, and I often wake up on my back. But mostly I'm a side sleeper with pillows under my head. Question number 9. Are you a fan of sunrise or sunset? Well, I think I'm a big fan of sunsets, I think, over sunrises. But I enjoy a good sunrise too. I think sunrises can be just as beautiful. And in fact, I also like the sun in midday. That's right. I've got some wonderful and beautiful memories of the sun when it's overhead, shining through clouds with rays, like corpuscular rays shooting through the clouds, and beautiful rainbows, even double rainbows and triple rainbows. Yeah. And in fact, just yesterday, I saw a really beautiful landscape. I was at the coast near the ocean, And it was in the morning when the morning fog was, I guess, just sort of rolling out. The marine layer was rolling out, and I was above the fog, and I was looking down at the fog bank as it was rolling back into the sea, and it was just beautiful. It was really gorgeous. I love to see the tumbling, billowing fog as it was, crossing the sea, and it just looked like it was like a peninsula that was jutting out into the sea, and it was just so beautiful. It was almost like the clouds were this mass of land that was jutting into the sea. It was really a sight. It was quite beautiful. So to answer the question, sunrises or sunsets, well, I love the sky. In fact, that's a really important point for me to make. I love clouds. I love the moon and the sun and the play of light in our environment. I love to see the haze and the halos of ice crystals around the sun, and I love to see the stars and the planets, Venus and Mars, as they move around the sky. And, it's got me to think recently about constellations and how I think I want to learn more about them. I want to learn about the Greek and Roman mythology that sort of is the basis for these constellations. And I also want to learn more about the astronomy of them. What great thing about the sky is that it's about the same all the time. There are changes, of course. Asteroids and meteor showers and comets, things like that. But essentially the stars remain fixed, right? They've been in position for billions of years, and and while the Earth revolves around the sun, there are some changes that occur during the year, but really, it's the stars, the starry sky is largely the same. Especially when it comes to the major features. And I think it makes sense for me to devote some time thinking more about the stars and developing a more thorough appreciation of this beautiful display that's above us every evening. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Question number 110. What do you usually have for breakfast? Okay. Well, I like to eat vegan, which means that I don't have meat or eggs or milk or cheese. But today for breakfast I had a sausage bagel with cheese. Now, this was soy cheese, and it wasn't pork sausage. It was tofu sausage. Soy cheese, soy sausage, it was good. I really enjoyed it. And it was essentially a bagel sandwich, sort of like an egg McMuffin sandwich. And it was really enjoyable. And we'll see, what else did I have this morning? I had some grapes. I like to have fruit, particularly because I think fruit is high in antioxidants and anthocyanins, which just are great micronutrients. I'll have strawberries quite often in the morning. Oatmeal, I think, is a staple of mine. I just happen to be out of oatmeal at the moment. And breakfast, quite often I'll have like a tomato juice, like a V8 or an orange juice, something like that. And that tends to be my breakfast. Sometimes I'll have a sandwich, but mostly lately, my breakfasts have been basically oatmeal sprinkled with some non-caloric sweetener like Splenda, and I'll shake some cinnamon on top. And I've really been enjoying lately cashew milk as opposed to soy milk. So I've been putting these nut milks into my oatmeal for some moisture, right? I don't put water in my oatmeal. I'll use a nut milk, either soy or cashew. The reason I've been liking cashew milk is because it's got such low calories. It's really great. I've got this creaminess and this, it's a very light, nutty flavor. And I find that it pairs well with oatmeal. And if you ever want to try oatmeal, a cashew milk, you might give it a try. Though it doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of nutrition in it, other than, say, fats and calcium, I guess. Well, that's what I have for breakfast. Next question. Question number 111. What do you usually have for lunch? Well, what do I usually have for lunch? Quite often I'll have like a bed of rice or a bed of lentils. Maybe I'll have some pasta. Yesterday at lunch I had pasta with some tomato sauce on it. I'll have a sprinkle of red pepper flakes or some kind of seasoning, maybe some Cajun spices. And then I might have some rice cakes. I've really been enjoying rice cakes. For me, rice cakes are like chips or crackers or pretzels. The thing with chips, crackers, and pretzels is that I'm admitting this to you right now. I really like eating chips, crackers, and pretzels, and I'll eat a lot of them. And it's really easy for me to overeat because they are so delicious and tasty. And so I've actually been deciding on purpose not to buy chips, pretzels, and those things, because those snacks are just, they sort of augment some cravings. I've got some cravings for them, and I just eat them all the time. And here's the facts are that they don't have very much nutrition value. And I recognize this. Chips tend to be high in calories. So they're low in nutritional value, they're high in calories, and they're somewhat addictive. They've got wonderful coatings on them of salt and spices that just make them so desirable. They're hard to put down. And I am finding that I enjoy eating rice cakes. They're pleasant. They come in lots of different flavors. The rice cakes I had today or yesterday, I think were a sea salt and lime. Though they also come in all kinds of other flavors like apple cinnamon and caramel and chocolate. There are chocolate rice cakes. There are rice cakes that are flavored with seaweed, and those are really good. And so there's also like a cheddar flavor rice cake. Though I probably should not be eating them because I think they may be non-vegan. But it's just some powdered milk solids probably. But I like rice cakes. They're probably not that good for me. They're probably not much better than pretzels now that I think about it. But I feel like I get a little bit more bang for my buck, because they're rice. Maybe they're a little more nutritious. I don't know. Maybe they have slightly fewer calories than chips and crackers, right? I don't know. So I'm still struggling with my snack foods. Let's see, what else do I have for lunch? I quite often have salads for lunch. Maybe I'll have some vegetables like beets or peas. So essentially, what I eat for lunch are my staple foods. My staple foods are like oatmeal, rice, pasta, lentils, beans, and like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Although I'll tell you what I've been doing lately. I've just been having peanut butter sandwiches, and I'm finding that I'm really loving that. Now, I love peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but peanut butter by itself in sandwich form is just as good. And of course, I'll also have bread, and quite often I like to have sandwiches with toasted bread. So anyway, I can get into this whole food stuff. Thankfully, because I cook everything in my own kitchen and I prepare my own breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I think what I'm eating is particularly wholesome, plant-based. Recently, I've been experimenting with roasting vegetables a lot more. Like I got some rutabagas recently, and I got some Brussels sprouts, and I've been focused on roasting some squash and zucchini and also eggplant, and so I'm widening out in those areas right now. Okay, next question. Question number 112, what do you like for dinner? Well, it's lunch and dinner are basically the same. Recently, right now, in fact, I'm thawing a set of Beyond Burgers, which are essentially a soy and pea protein. I think it's more of a pea protein burger. I enjoy the vegan burgers. I think I've pretty much covered it all. Question number 113, do you ever watch what you eat? And the answer is yes. I'm continually watching what I'm eating. I'm always looking to get the most nutritive bang for my calorie buck. And so I'm always on the lookout for more nutritious food, more food that hits the spot, more food that's can be prepared at home and that is enjoyable and hits the spot. Yeah. I'm focused on calories. I am essentially a calorie counter. That's what the method I use to manage my weight, so I can keep myself at my ideal weight. And I've learned some hard lessons in the past about weight management, and I'm never going to lose the results of those lessons because they were powerful lessons about my health. And so, I do pay attention to the food that I eat because it is, I think, one of the main components of a healthy lifestyle. For me, that's eating a plant-based diet. It's also about eating food in moderation and sort of not killing myself with my fork and what I put into my body, right? So question number 114, what is your favorite movie genre? So I might have mentioned this in the past. My favorite movies are like rom-coms, romantic comedies, and comedies, family pictures. I like animations, like the Disney animation films and films from Pixar. I like the thoughtfulness that animated movies sort of express in terms of their directors and producers and their storyline development. More rarely, I should say, I watch action and drama, but only if those movies are particularly good. I tend to stay away from movies that have a lot of tension in them. I just don't care to be tense during a movie-going experience, and for that reason, I also don't really watch horror movies. Now, I will watch action, thriller, drama, and horror movies if there's sort of an element of humor in them, an element of comedy that takes the edge off the tension. Yeah, but I don't go to like purely tense movies. just because, you know, the movie making technology and directors and producers out there, the special effects are really good. And if a particular director wanted you to feel tension continually through a 2-hour period, they could do it with a combination of music and visuals and special effects that is unmatched. And so they're so good. You know, these storytellers in video and movies are so good at their jobs that I almost know what I'm going to get. And so I steer clear just for my own mental health. All right. So what's the next question? Question number 115. What is your favorite music genre? Okay, well, right now my favorite music genre is electronic dance music, also called EDM. You know, I like the sort of pop music, danceable music that's out there. So it's basically dance music because I like doing some ecstatic dance on the weekends. You know, that's the kind of music I go for, stuff that I can move my body to. But I also enjoy a lot of relaxing music. Like I enjoy classical music. Sometimes I enjoy like a vocal jazz music, like a Harry Connick Jr. I also like male tenors. I enjoy listening to them, like a Bublé. I also enjoy, you know, female pop stars. I find them a lot of fun to sing, to dance to, like Lady Gaga and, you know, just your pop music icons like Madonna and music like that. The music I like also tends to be very popular, so I'm lucky in that way. I'm not necessarily into alternative music that, you know, has really deep themes. Not necessarily into that. I tend to prefer the lighter stuff. You know, and I prefer the lighter stuff because, you know, I use music as a mood modifier, right? I use it to sort of help me ease into, you know, enjoying my life a little bit more. And I'm not necessarily using it to sort of express my blues, right? I don't listen to a lot of blues music or even a lot of reggae, although a lot of reggae is pretty high energy. Okay, or high vibration, I guess. Next question. Question number 116. Do you or have you owned a weapon? So, I am a pacifist. And so the answer to that question is no, I don't own any firearms or anything like that. Now, I do own knives. Certainly I have kitchen knives that I use to cut vegetables with. And I have knives that are parts of multi-tools, right? So there's the knife and the scissors and the pick and the pliers, you know. So I own knives that are part of multi-tools. I don't own a knife by itself. But I own knives part of multi-tools, and of course I have knives as part of cutlery. So, but I guess so the answer is no, I don't own any weapons. Next question. Question number 117. Do you enjoy or tolerate swearing? Well, I think everybody has to tolerate swearing on some level. But I do not enjoy swearing, and to answer the question at face value, I don't tolerate it either. I think of swearing as being a kind of moral judgment. And I also think I think that swearing represents sloppy thinking. And so, no, I don't engage in swearing for that reason. I think that there are other ways to communicate those ideas. Now, that's not to say I don't swear myself, because in private I swear. It's just somehow it's just part of human consciousness to do it. And, but I do try to counsel myself when I do find myself swearing. I counsel myself away from that kind of behavior. I don't think it's very helpful. I think its utility is somewhat limited, and so yeah, I might swear in private, but I certainly don't swear in public. And you know what? It doesn't have to do necessarily with any moral inclination. I'm not like prohibiting certain words because they're bad, and it's not that. Or somehow they are curses against certain deities, supernatural deities. That's not the reason I have prohibitions about cursing for myself. Cursing, like I mentioned, in my mind, is a form of judgment. It's a form of moral judgment. And I think just that fact of judgmentalism is something I want to steer clear of. Quite often those ideas are not well formed, and they're not thoughtful. And so for those reasons, it has to do with effectiveness. It has to do with, it also has to do with politeness and kindness in the presence of others, and kindness in the presence of myself. It's about sort of a gentle way of relating to the world. See, that's really the reason I have prohibitions against cursing and foul language. It's because I believe that there are better ways to be expressive, more effective ways that turn off people less, right? That are more able to express goodwill the way I want to express it. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to wrap things up a little bit. We'll wrap things up on cursing, right? So I hope you enjoyed spending this time together, Emily. I hope you got to know a little bit about who I am and what my approach to life is. I hope you got to sort of see a little bit into my soul, and I hope that I was able to sort of peer into your soul a little bit and touch you a little bit with the words that I said about, gentle communication and my general curiosity about how you're doing and how you're managing yourself. And, I'm curious about where you're struggling and if you might be in a low mood, or if you're considering, questions related to major decisions that you're about to make. I just want to sort of invite you to sort of express yourself to me. I want to also help you to recognize how open I am to receiving any kind of transmission related to any problem areas in your life. I just want to let you know that I'm open. I'm signaling my openness to being more a part of your life, and because I think that it can benefit both of us. I think that you can gain benefits from knowing your father more deeply. And, I think that you can benefit from knowing me. And I think that I could benefit from knowing you, Anyway, I just want to say these things. I want to say that I love you very much, that you mean a lot to me, and that I love you just the way you are. That in a very significant sense, I am for you. I'm here to serve you and support you and act in ways that benefit you so that you can determine your own future life. Peace. I love you, girl.